Welcome back to 360 Sports. I'm Sophia Koch alongside Gavin, Peyton, and Jake. Today we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. So let's start off with our first headline. The Super Bowl week has finally arrived. It's the Chiefs and the Eagles. They will battle it out on Sunday to see who will take home the Lombardi Trophy. How do you guys see this game playing out?
Yeah, I'm super excited for this game personally. Two great teams, both have had great seasons. I think the Eagles are going to win. I really hope the Eagles win personally, even though I'm not an Eagles fan. I just really don't like the Chiefs. Saquon, I'm guessing he's going to have a really big game, and I hope these three-peat hopes get diminished.
Yeah, so this is the second time in 3 years we're playing each other. The Chiefs started their, let's say, three-peat run against the Eagles. Me personally, I think this game's going to be kind of like a slugfest type of game. Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs, that defensive coordinator, I don't know why he's not getting any head coaching discussions.
It's absurd.
He's a really great defensive coordinator. Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, all those players are really good. And we all know the Eagles, they just completely stole that Georgia team that won the Natty. Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter's probably one of the best D tackles in the league. So I think this game's going to be kind of low scoring, not like the first Super Bowl where they played each other, but pretty low scoring.
I think it's going to be a great game as well. I think it might be a little similar to Super Bowl 57, maybe a little, like you say, a little bit more defense. Peyton, obviously, both teams have stout defenses, and Steve Spagnuolo, like you said, should be getting some looks as a head coach. It's crazy. Maybe he just wants to stay with Kansas City. I'm not sure, but he should definitely be getting some looks. I think there'll be a lot of big key fourth down decisions to be made by the Chiefs offense as well as the Eagles defense. Going to get a big stop in big moments. As well, just a quick little thing I have to say. For everyone saying who's rooting for team media or you don't want to watch this game, stop. You're lying. You're going to watch the Super Bowl. You're not going to not watch football. What are you going to do? There's not going to be any more football for another 7 months. What are you going to do? And like everyone who says, I can't stand the Chiefs and their dynasty, like obviously, yes. But do we not just forget we lived through the Patriots dynasty for 20 years and still people watch football? You're not going to stop watching football just because you don't like the matchup. It's going to be a great game. So just enough.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point. But going back to the game, I think it's going to be kind of a game where it's like the last team with the ball wins. I think it was similar when they last played in the Super Bowl together, these two teams. But yeah, I'm really excited for this game.
Yeah, and I hate to bring it up because I'm sure Eagles fans have been hearing this. So if you're an Eagles fan, maybe close your ears. But I want to see if like Jalen Hurts can if the game is relied on him, he can come through. I mean, there's been a lot of narratives about it. I believe he can, but find out.
You saw 2 years ago he balled out.
Yeah.
He played Patrick Mahomes. Jalen's going to be fine. Don't listen to the haters, Jalen. You got it.
I mean, I may not be an Eagles fan, but I am a Saquon fan, so I am hoping the Eagles win. Not a big Chiefs fan, but let's move on, leaving the Chiefs and the Eagles. So the Saints are searching for their head coach, though it appears they are posed to hire the Eagles offensive coordinator. The Saints cannot contact Moore until after the Super Bowl, even though they've communicated with him throughout the playoffs. Will Moore head to New Orleans, or is the NFL hiring system in need of a change?
I think the hiring system's fine. I mean, I get it. I wouldn't want my offensive coordinator interviewing other jobs when you're playing in the biggest game of his career. And I think if you're the Saints, might as well go out and get him. Maybe he can turn Kamara into that 1,000-yard rusher, which is kind of insane that he's never rushed for 1,000 yards yet in his career. He's had 1,000 total yards, but never rushed. If I'm the Saints, I'm going out and getting him.
Yeah, I think he'd be a great hire personally. It would be a good move for the Saints. I mean, they've kind of been like a 500 team for the past few years, but they do have good weapons on offense and defense with Kamara, Valdes-Scantling, and then on defense they got Cam Jordan, Demario Davis that Moore would be able to work with. And he's most likely coming from a offensive coordinator position. He's most likely to get a better contract. So I think that'll be appealing for him. But I think the one question that I would have is his defense, his defensive mindset, just because he's only been an offensive coordinator so far. But I do think that this would be a good hire for the Saints.
I agree with you guys. I think you make great points. Obviously it's concerning to see how will he be as a defensive, as both sides of the ball. But to be fair, he's had a lot of coaching experience. He's the offensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, for the Los Angeles Chargers, and now the Philadelphia Eagles. I slightly disagree with you, Peyton, on saying that I think it's completely and utterly fine. I think it's a little bit unfair to say that maybe there should be a little bit of tweaking to the way coaches are hired, because obviously this was a similar situation for the Eagles 2 years ago during that same Super Bowl run against Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 57, where Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon was interviewing with the Arizona Cardinals, and a lot of Eagles fans and a lot of other NFL fans were angry at the time because it's like taking focus away from the most important game of your coaching career. if you win a championship, that adds to your resume now more. But of course, they ended up losing, in which the Chiefs ended up dropping 38 points on that supposedly vaunt Eagles defense. And I can't help but wonder if it's distraction. And, it's angry for the players, a lot of them, because they're sitting there, they're focused every single day, trying to get better, trying to prepare for the biggest game of their life. And their coach is, of course, a human being thinking about his career after it. But it's like, this is what you should be focused on 100% at the moment. So I think there should be a little bit of a tweaking to it, maybe similar to NFL free agency, maybe make that window around that time after the playoffs have happened, or when coaches are in the playoffs, they shouldn't be allowed to be interviewed until after they've been eliminated.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't imagine, you're prepping for a Super Bowl game, biggest game of your career, and then let's say today he gets hired as a Saints head coach. It's like, well, you got to coach a game right now. Like, you can't worry about that. So
I agree with what you were saying. I think that it is a little bit interesting that they could do it during the playoffs, but they're not allowed to do it during the Super Bowl time period. I think that they maybe should change that and make it so that once your team's eliminated, then you can have those conversations. But it is a little bit weird. I think that the overall idea of it is good, but I think definitely a little tweak, like you're saying, would be beneficial.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, Cleveland Browns star defensive end Myles Garrett officially requested to trade today. Where do you guys think some potential destinations we might see Myles Garrett at?
Yeah, and my friends, I know you want me to say Cincinnati. I'm not going to say them. And the reason why, I'm going to compare this kind of like the Russell Wilson sweepstakes a couple years ago. I do not think Myles Garrett will get traded in conference. I don't think that's going to happen, because if I'm the Browns, I'm getting him either out of conference. I'm sure as heck not trading him to a division rival.
For sure.
So that narrows it down to about 16 other teams. And I have the Lions, and people are going to be happy when I say this next team, the Eagles. Howie Roseman, we all know if he wants something, he's going to get it. It's just how he does it.
He's just fuming. He's just ready. He's
done it before too with AJ Brown. I mean, this is very similar. It's first round pick, clear up some cap. You got him. If you're the Lions, if you can pair him with Aiden Hutchinson, I mean, it's going to be one of the best. It's going to be the best edge rushing duo in the league, and it could be up there pretty much all time. I know that's a hot take.
I was thinking about saying the Lions because with Aiden Hutchinson, that'd be pretty insane. But I said actually the Los Angeles Chargers. I think that Khalil Mack is going to be a free agent after this season, and Joey Bosa is kind of out of his prime. The Chargers offense is pretty good. We know Myles Garrett said that he wanted to join a Super Bowl contending team. Obviously, the Chargers made the playoffs this season. And I think that, Herbert's got a pretty bright future. They got Harbaugh there. So I think the Los Angeles, the Chargers would be a really good fit for them, for Garrett, sorry. But just to go back to the Browns, I mean, they're an absolute mess, for being honest. I mean, the whole Deshaun Watson situation really didn't go their way. They're terrible on offense. They don't really have any good running backs. On defense, same kind of problem. So I don't really blame Myles Garrett for requesting this trade, and kind of, he's probably towards the second half of his career. So I think it's a smart decision by him, and I do think that the Chargers would be a good fit.
I think you Gav, and you Peyton, you guys make both great points. Ironically, I had both of your guys' teams on my list, so I'll just echo some of the points you guys said, maybe elaborate a little bit more on it. Starting with the Chargers, I think you're right. I mean, Jim Harbaugh came in really quickly. He made a great it was a great hire by the Chargers, and, he brought the Chargers back to the playoffs after that rotten season they had the previous year with I can't even remember his name, Brandon Staley. We'll say, it was just he needed to go, and they had a great new makeup of the team with Jim Harbaugh, as well as the fact pairing Joey Bosa with Myles Garrett, and like you touched on, Khalil Mack's a 34-year-old and about to be a free agent. He's probably going to set to be walking away. So if you pair him with Joey Bosa, who's had some injury problems and the concern, takes a little bit of the pressure off of him. I think that's a great pairing. And as well as the fact that now Myles Garrett, of course, a former Defensive Player of the Year, you can have him be a great veteran leader to some of the young guys, like one of their young stars, Tui Pelota, who had a solid rookie year, 8.5 sacks. That's great. So you can just build off that as well. And then to your point, Peyton, with the Detroit Lions, I think you're right. If you pair Aiden Hutchinson and Myles Garrett, that's immediately the best pass rushing duo in the entire league. That would scare so many people. And this would really be a great fallback for them after losing both Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. They're going to need a new person to lead that defense. And I think this would definitely take some pressure off their new defensive coordinator. And especially with that matter of the fact that the Lions were devastated by injuries this entire season, especially on defense. And, they withered the storm the whole time. They, Dan Campbell, they never gave up. Aaron Glenn, fantastic job, and wish him all the success in New York. But I think those would be probably the two best. I think you guys hit it both nail on the head. Those are probably the two best places for Myles Garrett. But of course, the heart says the birds. But we got enough players, so if it doesn't happen, so be it. But I'm excited to see where he goes.
Yeah. Keep in mind, he's also still under contract. I think a couple of years ago, he signed a 5-year, $125 million contract. I guess some of his accolades, I believe he's the fastest player to 100 sacks. He just had 14 sacks this year. It's fourth year in a row. Nobody's ever
Very
done
impressive.
that. This he's one of the most premier edge rushers, and he's in a division right now loaded by edge rushing talent, and I believe that's what sweeps him under the rug because he gets compared to T.J. Watt, Trey Hendrickson almost every game. So yeah, if I'm the Eagles or if the Lions, I don't think he's going to go in conference just because I wouldn't trade him in conference if I were the Browns, but Browns, you did say they're a dumpster fire, so can't agree with you with that.
Yeah.
So
I just want to go back to what you were saying about kind of how Garrett is a team leader and really like lets his voice be heard. I think that'd be beneficial for the Chargers defense as well. They really don't have someone on that side of the ball that will really, bring everyone together, get everyone ready, focused, prepared, whatever it takes. But Myles Garrett, he's definitely shown that in Cleveland, and I think that he would be that aspect of his game would be really beneficial for the Chargers.
I think Joey Bosa's kind of been that guy, but he's getting a little bit older now, dealing with injuries. So now if you have a young, appealing star like Myles Garrett, someone who just take the reins of that defense and just make them a phenomenal, machine, then yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
So after we see this trade of Myles Garrett, what do you think Cleveland's next move would be with their team?
I have no clue.
Tank for Arch Manning?
Literally any pick you have at that, what they have, the 2 or 3 pick, literally any pick they do would help that team immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, someone like Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, obviously great impact player, but in the long run, it's not going to help them. Mm-hmm. They're going to need a quarterback, and the infamous quarterback jersey just might continue on for years to come. But
Cam Ward, somebody.
Yeah, I mean, if they love Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, maybe, but as of right now, they're not in a great spot.
Yeah, I'd probably just try to replace him, get Abdul Carter. I mean, any pick you do.
I think that going back to what I was saying before, I mean, the Browns went from, I think maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, they were 0-16. And then they got Mayfield. They got a little bit better. They made the playoffs one year. And now they're just back to being trash again. So I definitely think they got to figure out what they're going to do. I think Abdul would be a great option. I think they wait on a quarterback right now, maybe for Arch Manning, like you were saying. But, yeah. I mean, they definitely need to make a change and a pretty big one.
Say what you want about Drew Aller, but he's a local kid. He'd love to go play for the Browns.
So let's move on, leaving our headlines. So in the Super Bowl, players become immortalized for making huge plays happen. Let's head to the board and talk about some of our impact players for that game. So up first, we have Gavin.
All right, so I took this question maybe a little bit differently than everyone else did. But so my pick is Juju Smith-Schuster. He hasn't really been having a great season so far. His best game has only been 130 yards. So he's having a really down season. But I think in a key situation at the end of the game where the Eagles defense might not be as prepared for him, he could be a valuable weapon. And I know we've seen, for me being a Patriots fan, Edelman against the Falcons, Malcolm Butler, who's also kind of a no-name player for the Patriots that year, kind of like Juju has been for the Chiefs this year. So I think that in a late game situation, a little bit of an underrated target that maybe the Chiefs could find some valuable use for. So that's my pick. I think I interpreted maybe different than everyone else did.
I will say I respect your pick for maybe being a little bit unorthodox.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how many targets Juju Smith-Schuster is going to get in this Super Bowl.
I think I took it more as a late time game, last drive of the game. Who are you looking for? Maybe the Eagles won't be prepared for Smith-Schuster because of his lack of production.
Jake, I heard that. Excuse me, and I don't want to bring back any bad memories, but I believe a couple of Super Bowls ago he had 100 yards against y'all.
Yeah,
so I mean, I wouldn't go out saying excuse me because.
Well, I'd say he had a pretty good quarterback throwing the ball. I don't know if Juju was out there making.
He still had 100 yards, and on that controversial call, would say he was targeted on that last play of the game.
Very controversial. Yeah. Don't even bring that up.
So I like the pick.
Yeah, I think it was a little different. I mean, I could have gone Saquon, I could have gone Mahomes, but I thought
I can respect it.
That was a little different.
Yeah, for sure.
Up next, we have Jake.
All right, so taking a completely different approach, I'll say, from that spectrum, you say Juju Smith-Schuster, maybe it's a little bit unorthodox. I'm going to go a little bit more conventional. My pick is Jalen Carter, stud defensive tackle for the Philadelphia Eagles. And the reason I say this is because Jalen Carter has been a gigantic impact player as soon as he got on this team. During these playoffs, he's had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, forced fumble, and a crucial sack on 3rd and long against Matthew Stafford and the Rams, in which it looked like the Rams were maybe coming back to potentially win that game. And Jalen Carter absolutely saved the game in that play. And then on fourth down, Stafford threw it down. So yeah, Jalen Carter, he's been a beast ever since the Eagles drafted him. And he's just opened up tons of opportunities for himself, but also, impact players like Nolan Smith, Nakobe Dean, rest up, my man. And, he's just been an impact player the entire season. And the reason I say this is mostly important for Jalen Carter is because during Super Bowl 57, when the Eagles played the Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles had a historic season in which they are the third highest team in terms of single season sacks. They had 70. And during that Super Bowl, the Eagles did not sack Patrick Mahomes once. And I think that's going to be a huge contributing factor for Jalen Carter, just to get after Patrick Mahomes. So, yeah, Jalen Carter, I think, is going to have a huge game. So he's my impact player for the Super Bowl.
It's a good pick.
Yeah, that Jalen Carter pick's really good. When you look up the definition of a 3-tech, which is a D tackle that plays outside shade of the guard, not like a nose tackle where they're more head up, you look up, you'll see Aaron Donald and Jalen Carter.
Oh, yeah.
They are the complete same players. They're both phenomenal. They can rush the passer, stop the run at the best.
I will say, I did think it was a little early to say those Aaron Donald comparisons, but they share similar qualities. And he just absolutely can take over and wreck a game, especially for offense. And, that was the biggest problem for the Eagles. And what I couldn't stand was the fact how Patrick Mahomes was playing on a bum leg, especially if you remember against your Bengals, and he got injured in the Jags game. But it didn't seem like it affected him at all. And because the Eagles just couldn't get after Patrick Mahomes. And I think Jalen Carter is absolutely going to have to take over that game.
If you can rush the passer from inside with Sweat as edge rusher and Bryce Huff, it's going to be tough for the Chiefs to get around. That O-line's pretty solid, though. So
it's going to be an interesting battle between because both defenses are so good, but also both offenses are so good.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that kind of leaves a little bit of a mystery to how the game kind of plays out, which makes it a little more exciting.
Yeah,
but that's a good pick.
Thank you.
I respect the defensive pick.
Yes,
a little different.
We all love our offense. So we got to show some love to the big boys up front, and especially the boys on defense.
Yeah.
Bring it home, Jalen Carter. Bring it home.
So up next we have Peyton.
Happy, Jake, you brought up the big boys up front because I'm going to go on the other side of that line for the Cowboys, the Eagles. Mekhi Becton and Wayne Johnson. I mean,
I like that.
Jeff Stoutland, whenever he got Mekhi Becton, we all know first round pick out of Louisville, not that he was kind of underwhelming. They moved him to right guard, and this has been working out pretty good. I mean, if you watch Saquon Barkley, the reason he's a talented running back, but the reason why he's having these huge runs is because of these guys up front. I mean, that counter play is just absolutely lethal. That's whenever the guard and the tackle pulls, absolutely lethal. These two people, if they can have their way with this Chiefs D-line, Saquon might have 200 rushing yards in the Super Bowl. And if they win the Super Bowl, I feel like this will be the greatest rushing performance of all time, like all season long. So it's going to be those two people. Look out for them.
Dude,
I like that.
I love the pick. I think, Eagles fans, obviously myself, we know how great Wayne Johnson is. And I think people are starting to finally give him his flowers. But you bring up a great point with Mekhi Becton. He played for the Jets and expected to be their left tackle. And it just never really worked out. A lot of injuries and very underwhelming. The Eagles bring him in. They move him to guard. And, Jeff Stoutland, the offensive line coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, my favorite assistant coach ever. He's a lifetime contract. He can be our offensive line coach forever he wants. And they just take and they mold players just to be phenomenal linemen. It makes perfect sense.
Good picks.
Okay, so last we have my pick.
What you got for us, Sophia?
Okay, so I went with the kind of obvious pick of Saquon. So like I said, I'm from New York, so I may not be an Eagles fan, but I am a Saquon fan. So Saquon in this game has the opportunity to break the record for rushing yards with the postseason, and he pretty much just carries the Eagles as a player. And I just think he's going to be a key player in this game, and we're going to see him make some of those really big plays like he's made in the past throughout this whole season.
Yeah, and
makes sense.
I said this a couple minutes ago. If they win the Super Bowl, and Saquon's a huge reason why, I think this Russian season he's had is the greatest of all time. I mean, if he really wanted to, he could have went out there and broke that record.
Yeah.
And I don't care what people say, one less game, he would have done it on like 5 less carries. He's just been terrorizing defenses. Probably one of the best free agent signings.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to see what he's done this season compared to what he did while he was in New York with the Giants. Just an absolute beast, to be honest. It's pretty crazy. I mean, the athleticism he's shown. I mean, we all know being from Penn State, we probably seen him a lot in college too, but he's just an absolute animal. And I think that I agree with what you were saying about how he kind of carries the team. I was thinking about this earlier today. I was wondering how if Saquon and maybe some of the other players, like if they didn't have some of their other weapons, how good would the Eagles be, both offensively and defensively? Would they have made the Super Bowl? Would they have made the playoffs? I thought to myself, I think they would have made the playoffs. They're a really good team. Obviously, Hurts is really good. They have Smith. They also got Adams. AJ Brown. Why am I? Yeah.
AJ Brown.
Yeah. So obviously they're still a really good team, but I don't think they would be nearly as good without Saquon. So
yeah, it's a great point, Sophia. I mean, it makes perfect sense. I mean, you saw the New York Giants. Like, obviously, no offense to you guys, but you guys didn't do the greatest job in terms of helping. I mean, he single-handedly carried you guys to the playoffs in 22. I mean, he had a phenomenal run there, but he just never had the people to back him up in terms of an offensive line, in terms of Daniel Jones as a quarterback, in terms of the defense. And now the Philadelphia Eagles, as much as I want to admit how great of a team we are, obviously it's just Saquon's taking us to a completely other level. Miles Sanders was great behind this offensive line. DeAndre Swift was great behind this offensive line. Saquon has been impeccable. It's not even a comparison. He's just changed the dynamic of our offense so much. I've never seen so many explosive runs in an entire season. Like you just hand him the ball off a quick pitch and he takes it to the house. It's unbelievable.
Saquon against the Rams, his shortest touchdown run was 60 yards. He has 4 touchdown runs against the Rams.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happens when you pair in a year in, year out great offensive line with an already great running back.
I mean, I feel like Saquon could also have the opportunity to win MVP, which he'll be the 17th running back to ever do, which is kind of crazy. But let's move on, leaving our picks. So as we approach the big game, we begin to look back on Super Bowl years in the past. So let's rank these recent Super Bowls blindly 1 through 5.
All right. Oh, okay. So this would be Super Bowl 56, I believe. This is the Rams and the Bengals.
Right before
And so this one might hurt you guys a little bit. So
I'd say going into the game, for me, this would be number 1, but knowing the result of the game, let's put that at like 5.
I will say, I thought this was like a very just mediocre Super Bowl. Like it was,
I agree.
I think it was solid. No, there was nothing like big giant that stood out. There was the one big T. Higgins play, which was controversial because looking back, it was a face mask and the refs didn't call it. But I thought it was a fine game overall. You had that great drive by Matthew Stafford at the end of the game. And then, of course, Aaron Donald saving the season at the end with the sack, getting his ring. But I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's probably around like a 3 or 4.
I would say 4.
I'd say, I mean, if you're not a fan of these two teams, it was a pretty underwhelming Super Bowl, I guess. But, yeah, I'd probably go 4.
It did have good storylines in it, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're going to leave that one at 4. So let's see our next option.
Oh, well. Yeah, see, I just went from one heartbreak to another. Super Bowl 57. Now, similar to you, Peyton, I would say, maybe the outcome is different. This might be number 1. But no, my bias aside, this was a fantastic Super Bowl. But, yeah, I mean, I'd say it's close up there.
I would say probably 2.
Like, I don't know how far we're going back because, in my opinion, the 28-3 could have been the greatest Super Bowl of all time. I don't know if that's going to be on here, but this Super Bowl was pretty good. So,
it was very good. Not a lot of defense. Now, there was the big play, of course, the fumble by Hurts, and then the pickup by Nick Bolton, scoop and score.
Yeah.
But again, it was a very high-scoring affair. So I think it was very entertaining.
Yeah,
it was great.
I did too.
I'd say it's probably number 2.
I would say 2, yeah.
Okay, so we have our 2 and our 4th spot taken. So let's see our next one.
Okay, so this is Super Bowl 58.
Yeah,
it's the purple logo. So this is last year's Super Bowl. Yeah, this one is kind of a tale of two halves. The first half was pretty boring, honestly. Like San Francisco, I mean, to be fair, they did a phenomenal job. They executed so well. They held Kansas City down. But then, of course, there's that muffed punt right at the end before the quarter started, and that was kind of the change in the game. But I think it was a solid Super Bowl. Nothing crazy. I mean, of course, Mahomes again proves how great he is going on those fourth quarter drives. And, in overtime as well. So there wasn't more drama there.
Yeah,
I would say probably 3. I didn't love this game.
I feel like if Greenlaw never got injured, I think that would have been a different result.
Yeah, that was a very big turning point in the game. And George Kittle goes down with the shoulder injury. Debo has the hamstring. Like if you watch Receiver on Netflix, they were dealing with injuries the entire game, and they were still hanging in there. But again, it was a very solid Super Bowl.
Yeah, I'd go 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna put this one at 3. We only have left our 1st spot and 5th spot, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's see what's next.
Oh,
all right,
wow.
This is 5.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah,
I mean, obviously,
you cannot put this at 5.
Obviously, I'm biased, but like, dude, this was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm worried because we only have 2 left.
Can I give you my argument as to why this is number
argument.
1? The reason I say that this would be number 1 is you had 2 unbelievable storylines in this. For one, for you guys with the Patriots, this would be Brady's second part of his dynasty. Of course, you guys are chasing your sixth ring, and this was obviously most guys on the team, it was their third. So it was the second part of your dynasty. And for the Eagles, it was about ultimate revenge. Obviously, they lost the first Super Bowl back in 2003 when Brady, I believe it was his second championship at the time, and the Patriots were young. They had a great defense, and the Eagles had yet to make it back since. So personally, to me, the storylines were great. The gameplay was awesome. The huge Brandon Graham strip sack at the end, which they needed to win the game. And then despite that, Tom Brady, arguably his greatest Super Bowl performance in a loss.
Yeah, it was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it was a great game. Not the outcome for me that I wanted, but yeah, we could put that.
I can't see how you could put
it was a good game. It wasn't a boring game like maybe the Rams Bengals was a little bit. No, wasn't as exciting as this one. So
you could never convince me that this was a bad Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So
I'll go one.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Let's
hope it's not the Falcons and Patriots.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a feeling it's gonna be.
Or it could be.
Let's see what our last one is.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
Okay, wow,
yeah.
Perfect.
I will say
13-3. People forget about this Super Bowl. It was kind of fitting that Gilmore had the game-winning pick there because he was Defensive Player of the Year that year.
is true.
Yeah. I mean, this was great for me. Honestly, I don't even know how much I paid attention to this game because it was just there was really no offense really going on there, but good result. So.
I will say, if you're a big football guy, this is probably the Super Bowl for you because it was very scheme heavy by Sean McVay and Bill Belichick. But Bill Belichick, of course, came out on top of the end.
It was still a good game. It was like 13-3.
Yeah,
right? It was still a close game.
There were key moments, and it never felt out of hand. But there was a lot of field goals, and I think a lot of people were just a little bit fatigued. But the Patriots, that's where I say this is very impressive because obviously after losing that crazy back for Super Bowl against the Eagles, they come right back the next year and they just dominate the Rams, who had one of the best offenses in the league, especially with Todd Gurley. I mean, it's kind of the end of his fantastic run as a great NFL player. I mean, you don't really hear his name anymore ever. He goes to Atlanta and kind of underwhelms. A lot of injuries derailed his career, but yeah.
Yeah, Sean McVay was 30 years old at this time.
I believe, he was probably the youngest coach in a Super Bowl at that point, but unfortunately.
Goff, too.
Yeah, a lot of people forget.
Just getting
Jared
started.
Goff.
Yeah, I like that ranking.
Yeah,
like
a pretty good
That's
list.
pretty good, yeah.
Okay, so let's leave our rankings. So Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are in yet another Super Bowl. Mahomes has dominated in the league and his worst finish being the AFC Championship. Do you think the Chiefs have established themselves as a dynasty yet in the NFL?
Yeah, they're definitely a dynasty. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember another quarterback that came in the league and his worst season was an AFC Championship.
Yeah.
Since 2018, they've been in it. They've only lost 2 AFC Championships. One to the Patriots and the other one to the Bengals, which I had to throw that in for my own sake.
There you go.
And then they lost to the Super Bowl in 2020 to Tom Brady. So he's basically only lost to 2 quarterbacks when it mattered in his career. So, and if they win 3 straight, first ever team to do it, that's 4 in 5 years. So
I think if they win on Sunday, they'll be considered a dynasty just because Patriots have won back-to-back Super Bowls. And so have the Chiefs now. But if they get this third one in a row, like you said, Peyton, it'll be the first time that this has ever happened. But like you said, they've been to 4 Super Bowls already, and they've won 3 of them, which is pretty nuts. So I think coaching has been incredible, obviously. And they found a way to win this season specifically without, some of the weapons that they've had in the past, like Tyreek Hill. Kelsey hasn't had the greatest season so far. Like he had maybe at the beginning of Mahomes' career. So I think that if they win on Sunday, that this will definitely secure them as a dynasty.
As much as I am rooting for them to lose, I have to really quick give the Kansas City Chiefs here their flowers. I mean, like you pointed out, Peyton, this stat is unbelievable. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, since he was a starter in 2018, he has been to the AFC Championship game or better as a player. That's unbelievable. The only comp I can make for that is LeBron James going to the finals from 2011 to 2018. I mean, imagine telling someone, hey, the worst you can do is the conference championship. That is unbelievable. And I slightly disagree with you, Gavin. They definitely are a dynasty. For me, I'd say a dynasty is about 3 championships in 4 to 5 seasons, and they already have accomplished that. This is going to be Mahomes' 5th championship that he's been to, only losing the one, like you pointed out, to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers. But I mean, it's just unbelievable. The coaching of Andy Reid, I think he's pretty much already cemented himself as one of the greatest sports coaches of all time.
Definitely.
Obviously being with the Eagles for a long time, going to 5 conference championships there, 1 Super Bowl appearance, leaving there, coming to Kansas City, and now going to 5 championships and winning 3 Super Bowls, potentially 4. And it's unbelievable how, like you talk about, they brought in stars from old and new, guys like McCole Hardman, Kareem Hunt, and then
Yeah.
new guys like Trent McDuffie and Xavier Worthy. The Chiefs, they're just phenomenal. I got to give them their flowers. Respect to Patrick Mahomes. Respect to the Kansas City Chiefs.
So let's just quickly wrap this up. Let's all do a quick Super Bowl prediction going around the table.
Yeah, I think the Eagles are going to win. 27-24 is my final score. I think this is going to be a really close game. Obviously, the last time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, it was 35-38. But the defenses are just so good that I don't really see it being that high scoring this time around. So yeah, I'm going to go Eagles 27-24. Late game field goal to put them on top.
I hate to say it, but until somebody proves me otherwise that they can beat Patrick Mahomes when it matters, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I'm going to go 27-20.
Mahomes and the Chiefs, they're going for immortality. They're going for a three-peat. But with a refreshed defense, with Saquon Barkley leading the charge on offense, and a desire for revenge, the Philadelphia Eagles will win Super Bowl 59, 31-27. Book it now.
I don't even know if we had to ask you that question.
No,
If
you
did,
didn't.
yeah.
Was there ever any doubt?
I mean, I don't want to put a number on it, but I do think the Eagles are going to come out with the win here. But that's all we have for 360 Sports. So come back tomorrow for Frenzy, I think it is tomorrow. So come back on Tuesday to see Frenzy, and that's it. Thank you.